Across the country today, letter carriers are rallying for fair pay and stronger contract protections. Locally, members of the National Association of Letter Carriers are joining that nationwide push. Fox 54's Valentina Chalala has more from downtown Huntsville.
Members of the National Association of Letter Carriers, Branch 462, are rallying as part of a nationwide day of action, calling for fair contracts, fair pay, and protecting the future of the U.S. Postal Service. Letter carriers say they've been fighting for years as contract negotiations continue. According to NALC, talks for a new agreement are expected to begin in the coming weeks, with the current contract set to expire in May.
We're out a lot longer than what we used to be in. Right now, you're seeing your mailman out as late as 11 p.m. sometimes. And so if we're going to be working those longer hours, we still can't live off a 2018 salary in 2026.
In September of last year, the NALC Executive Council returned to headquarters in Washington, D.C., assigning subcommittees to review pay, hours of work, technology changes, safety, and job protections ahead of the upcoming negotiations.
The collective bargaining that we're going into next week, we're negotiating a new contract between the NALC and the USPS.
The U.S. Postal Service processed and delivered an average of 23.9 million packages per day in 2024, further straining a workforce with demand only continuing to grow.
A report from May of 2024, it takes a letter carrier 8 years to reach the average wage for all occupations in the United States.
Regional Administrative Assistant Chris Strickland also points to safety concerns, saying retention remains a major issue as new hires struggle with the realities of the job.
We've been around for over 200 years and there's no laws for us. It's ridiculous. We're having letter carriers that are shot and attacked, robbed, almost on a daily occurrence somewhere in this country every day, and it's disgusting.
With the USPS servicing over 169 million delivery points every single day, letter carriers say they'll continue to rally until a fair agreement is reached. In Huntsville, I'm Valentina Chalala, Fox 54 News.
More updates on contract negotiations are expected in the coming months as talks move forward at the national level.
In the Northeast, it's expected to snow for at least 24 hours straight, and cleaning all of this up is going to take some time. 40 million Americans on the East Coast are under blizzard warnings and what officials are describing as the worst snowstorm in decades. The National Weather Service said record snowfall up to 1 or 2 feet is possible in many areas as it continues to come down Monday, along with heavy winds and possible flooding in New Jersey, Connecticut, and New York. Officials say road conditions are also dangerous. As the snow turns dense and wet, it has the capability of downing power lines, putting millions at risk of losing power. Tens of thousands of flights have been disrupted, dozens of schools are canceling classes, and travel bans are in place for non-essential cars. And DHS is now working with state and local authorities as well as FEMA to help out those states that are impacted by this blizzard. In New York, Caroline Elliott, Fox News.
The whole thing is a farce.
Democratic California Governor Gavin Newsom reacting to President Donald Trump's Saturday announcement that he's raising global tariffs to 15% from the 10% he imposed a day earlier.
It was 10% 2 days ago, maybe 20% tomorrow. I mean, this is madness.
The back-to-back tariff announcements came after the Supreme Court handed down a decision Friday, ruling the sweeping emergency tariffs Trump imposed last year are illegal. But the High Court's ruling only applies to the duties Trump imposed using one specific law. And the president immediately responded by saying he will now rely on other legal authorities to keep tariffs in place.
Other alternatives will now be used to replace the ones that the court incorrectly rejected.
The law Trump is relying on for his new 15% global tariffs requires that Congress approve the duties within 150 days for them to remain in effect. As for the tens of billions of dollars U.S. companies paid after Trump raised tariffs last year, Democrats are demanding the money be refunded.
He needs to return that money, needs to refund that money with interest. He can do that in a nanosecond. They could do that electronically. They can do it electronically. They have the tariff codes. They have the ability.
But Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says it's not that simple.
The Supreme Court did not address refunds. The Supreme Court remanded it down to a lower court. That could be weeks or months when we hear them.
I'm Reed Binion reporting.
The United States has launched one of its biggest deployments in the Middle East in decades, and that's amid these tensions with Iran over its nuclear program. Now, this includes a naval armada of some 16 ships, including 2 aircraft carriers, the Abraham Lincoln in the Arabian Sea and the Gerald R. Ford, which is in the Mediterranean heading east. Now, that combined has a lot of attack aircraft, including F-35s and FA-18s. Meanwhile, there's dozens of American aircraft that are stationed in the desert kingdom of Jordan. That could be a location from which the Americans could launch an attack on Iran. That's in part because Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, where America also operates aircraft from, have said they won't allow their airspace to be used in any potential attack against Iran. All this is coming as U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened to militarily strike the Islamic Republic if it doesn't reach a new nuclear deal with America. Now, the Americans and the Iranians are due to meet in Geneva on Thursday, and this might be the last best chance for a diplomatic solution to this. But we've heard from both the Iranians and the Americans. From the American side, U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff says that zero enrichment remains on the table. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has said that Iran must be able to enrich some level of uranium. So it does seem like there's pretty big gaps still. So these talks in Geneva might be key in determining whether or not all this military force assembled in the Middle East is used against Iran.
The Pima County Sheriff's Department says there is no change in resources here, and hundreds of law enforcement remain on the case. It's day 23, and investigators still have not named a suspect or motive in Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. Former Chelsea FC star Mikel John Obi's father was kidnapped twice in Nigeria, and he says both times the captors wanted money. Investigators have not confirmed the authenticity of ransom notes sent to media outlets in the Guthrie's case. But for people in the public eye, like Nancy's daughter Savannah, Mikel says it's hard not to feel responsible for your loved one's disappearance. Over the weekend, law enforcement remained focused on isolating mixed DNA found at the 84-year-old's home. But the sheriff warns that process could take months. Volunteer groups also took up the search. They did find a backpack, but it was determined by authorities to be unrelated to the case. The Sheriff's Department is telling people who want to search for Nancy on their own that they should leave the work to the professionals. In Tucson, Arizona, Rebecca Castor, Fox News.
So the process is if a customer comes in with their own containers, then we would weigh them first, and then you fill it up as much as you want to. You have customers who've been refilling the same containers for 6 years. So just imagine how much waste they've personally stopped consuming.
When things feel very overwhelming, like climate change is a huge thing, and you're like, well, I can't solve all of the problems, and it comes from farming and agriculture and industry. Well, yeah, you can't solve the big problems, but I can do my small part, and I think that's important.
Whenever we talk about environmental impacts of products, one of the best things to go back to is the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle. What a lot of people do not realize is that reduce, reuse, recycle is a priority order.
Across the board, majority of what we see in beauty is teeny tiny pieces of plastic. So anything that's smaller than 2 inches by 2 inches, that material is not being collected through traditional recycling centers. So if you throw it in the blue bin, it's going to go to those recycling centers, but it's falling through the cracks of machines because we don't have the infrastructure to collect this material. So it needs to come back to our collection bins through mail-back programs so that we can take it through our specialty process to ensure that we can give this material a second home.
Tariff uncertainty is back after President Trump revealed a 10% global tariff, then raised it to 15%, following the U.S. Supreme Court striking down the tariffs imposed under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Goldman Sachs says its estimates for tariff impact on inflation and growth are little changed. They say the bulk of the impact passed through to consumers has already happened, with just a 0.1% impact expected on prices this year. Domino's Pizza held up better than expected in the recent quarter. Its sales rose 3.7%, helped by promotions and new menu items. The pizza business has been hit by more people cooking at home and competition from food delivery services that give people more options. Domino's now has a relationship with DoorDash and others. And NVIDIA, known for producing chips for artificial intelligence, is getting back into the business of running your personal computer. The Wall Street Journal says NVIDIA will produce chips for laptops hitting the market this year from Dell, Lenovo, and others. Analysts say NVIDIA wants to keep a connection with consumers in an era when every device will be AI-enabled. CJ Papa, Fox News.
It started going from not able to sleep to waking up in the middle of the night, gasping for breath, like I couldn't breathe.
Heart failure isn't something most young people are worried about, but health experts say it's a disease that can affect people at any age.
So I thought I was like drowning. So after a couple of days of that, I'm like, there's something serious going on.
32-year-old Alex Balms thought it was just anxiety that caused him to experience shortness of breath and an irregular heartbeat. But when his symptoms became too much to ignore, he sought medical attention and was ultimately diagnosed with heart failure.
I asked him to keep checking. I'm like, it was just no way.
Balms is one of the nearly 7 million adults 20 years old or older who have the condition, according to CDC data. His cardiologist says it's important to visit a doctor if you experience shortness of breath, weight gain with swelling, trouble breathing while lying down, or feel weak or tired.
So, just call your primary care, and if you don't have one, try to find one soon. If you have complaints and your physical exam is concerning, then they should be ordering testing to further assess.
A recent survey from Orlando Health found that half of Americans would not schedule a non-urgent appointment with their doctor.
People are afraid to go get checked and find out that they have a problem. So that may limit them. Sometimes it's even access to medical care.
The data also shows only about 1 in 10 Americans would schedule a cardiologist appointment ASAP if they were experiencing classic heart failure symptoms. Health experts say it's important not to delay your care.
The problem is that because they don't seek help, then by the time we get to meet them, it may be too late. And a lot of these things could be preventable.
There are multiple risk factors for heart failure in young adults, including regular use of alcohol, obesity, and diabetes. In New York, Gernal Scott, Fox News.
It became more internationally known in 1941 by the beloved baseball player for which it was named, but ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, was first identified in 1869 by a French neurologist, and still today, there's no cure.
Quite honestly, we are yet to completely understand how it comes about, what causes it, what are the drivers.
Dr. John Morin with Cleveland Clinic says a small minority of ALS cases are genetic, but often there's no clear cause, making it hard to figure out a way to prevent it or reverse damage and stop disease progression. Red flags include arm weakness, inability to use your hands or legs like you used to, foot slapping or foot dropping, which leads to stumbles and falls and affects gait. It can also begin in your head, neck, or face area with difficulty speaking, controlling saliva, chewing, and swallowing. There could also be breathing issues, shortness of breath when you lie flat, causing you to lean forward to breathe better.
Especially if there's not a lot of pain or sensory symptoms like numbness, tingling, burning, prickling, that should be brought to your doctor's attention.
Morin says since symptoms appear in a sporadic or piecemeal fashion, that can make them easier to dismiss. The CDC says most people with the disease live from 2 to 5 years after those warning signs develop.
Quite often, the diagnosis takes more than a year or so in the United States. So that diagnostic delay also adds a challenge to this disease.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Steve Lockjaw just attacked my home, and I cannot remember for the life of my only child the answer to your question.
One battle after another has dominated another award show, this time the British Academy's BAFTAs. The darkly comic action epic won 6 awards, including Best Film and Best Director for Paul Thomas Anderson.
Connie Glass, you're a spy. Nothing gets past the feds, does it? Come on, we got work to do.
CIA stars Tom Ellis as an operative who reluctantly teams with an FBI agent played by Nick Gelfus. Ellis says one thing that drew him to the show was filming in New York.
Shooting out in the street in New York is a real experience, and one that I've never experienced before in my career. In that, normally when you're shooting outside, the area that you're shooting is locked off and that it's not open to the public. We don't really have that luxury in New York because nobody stops for anything. So, there are scenes in the show where, Nick and I are weaving our way through public and traffic and people taking selfies, and it's all real, essentially.
CIA debuts today on CBS and Paramount Plus. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
I'm a much nicer boss than you ever would have been, except for maybe this part.
Send Help fell to 5th place in its 4th weekend, scratching out $4.5 million.
Those high-value items your company insures, I occasionally make them disappear, and no one gets hurt.
In 4th place, Crime 101 made off with another $5.8 million.
I just want to write something that helps people through the pain we all go through.
I Can Only Imagine 2 debuted in 3rd place, bringing in $8 million.
Where is the obstacle?
Wuthering Heights wobbled in its 2nd weekend, falling to 2nd place with $14.2 million.
There's only one problem. I'm a small in a world of bigs.
Goat came up big in its sophomore weekend, grossing $17 million. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
I spent the last 3 years in an underground bunker.
Wow, so it's real.
Yeah, it's real.
Season 2 of Paradise reveals more about the world inside and outside the underground city.
I did not know at all how beyond the first season what was in store for us. And I think that I think it's so exciting to go outside the bunker. I think it's so exciting to watch Xavier search for his wife.
I came a long way to find my wife. So where the hell is she?
It's a whole new vibe, and it was exciting to explore like a different environment.
This bunker, there's something that nobody knows about. Something dangerous.
He's actually very consistent as an individual. He's got a very clear aim, clear purpose.
The show's themes of survival and community sparked discussion among the cast.
We were just talking about what would we do if it were the end of days, and I don't think I'd make it past day 2. We'd go to a mall. That's where we'd find ourselves.
Wish I had Jane's resources and
fortitude.
Wasn't really the how-to. It was the what would it look like, and
could I trust? And these kind of divisions that we have today, whether it's political division or difference of opinion, do those things dissipate in a moment of survival? And suddenly you're just looking at another human being and you see the humanity in them and the heart in them.
I have a plan for all of us. It's never just about the bunker.
In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
I'm coming, baby.
After more than 150 years, these giant tortoises are back where they belong. Ecuador released 158 of the animals onto Floriana Island, part of the Galapagos Islands, well known as the inspiration for Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. Each tortoise specially bred for a return to the island. Whalers and the introduction of new species wiped out the giant tortoise population by the mid-19th century. The reintroduction of this species is the culmination of a decade of work by Ecuador's Ministry of Environment and Energy. Scientists say these creatures play an important role in the ecosystem, helping regenerate natural habitats. The larger goal is to restore the island and return 12 locally extinct species. Another scientific exploration, albeit an icier one, is taking a reported record look at the inside of our Earth. An international team of researchers says it drilled under more than 1,715 feet of the West Antarctic ice shelf, pulling out a 748-foot sediment core, something they say is the longest ever. Scientists claim that core contains 23 million years worth of layers. They plan to study the supersized sediment specimen for evidence of how the ice shelf reacted during warm periods in Earth's history, giving clues to how continued warming in the future could affect how quickly the ice sheet melts. Finally, a piece of history just sold at auction for big bucks. This T206 Honus Wagner car dates back to 1909 when its original owner pulled it from a cigarette pack. The legendary shortstop played 21 seasons across the late 1800s, early 1900s, mostly for the Pittsburgh Pirates. The auction house says the rare card remained among the same family for 117 years until going up for auction, selling for more than $5 million. For Take a Look at This, I'm Patrick Cornell.
Talk about history coming to life. Archaeologists are doing a real excavation and finding artifacts that date back not just to the Underground Railroad, but also to 4,500 years ago.
It's important for people of all ages to recognize the history that is right here in our backyard.
They're truly unearthing pieces of history here at Croft Farm this weekend.
And it's more than any textbook, any blog, to be able to see and feel it firsthand is just something that's incomparable.
This site offers literally 4,500 years of human history in Cherry Hill. It touches on the Underground Railroad quite deeply. One of the families that lived out here, the Evans family, was an abolitionist family.
The farm was a stop for slaves on their way to freedom in the North. Just one of many things Alyssa Hetrick and her son are learning about firsthand.
For him at 6, it's a little harder to grasp still, but I think it's just to see how the process works in real life, so then when he also gets older, he has those memories.
It brings my spirit peace to know that even our ancestors aren't forgotten, because we are remembering them by honoring what they did.
And one family turned out with 4 generations to see the excavation and honor their own legacy.
So Isaac Kay is the person that built the original portion of this house, and he is my 7th great-grandfather. And we're all direct descendants of Isaac Kay, and his father, John Kay, is the one who originally purchased this property in 1710.
4 generations witnessing the rich history here along with others who just want to be part of something bigger than themselves.
It was good to get involved in the community, see what was here before we were, and just to be aware of our surroundings and how they've evolved over time.
Now, if you couldn't make it out today, the mayor hopes that you'll stop by another time to Croft Farm to see the artifacts and truly learn more about the history of this area. In Cherry Hill, Ellen Kaloje, Fox 29 News.
A a piece of history just sold at auction for big bucks. This T206 Honus Wagner car dates back to 1909 when its original owner pulled it from a cigarette pack. The legendary shortstop played 21 seasons across the late 1800s, early 1900s, mostly for the Pittsburgh Pirates. The auction house says the rare card remained among the same family for 117 years until going up for auction, selling for more than $5 million.
Fox 54 Plus has your news, sports, and weather. Start your evening with Fox 54 at 5:30, delivering the latest headlines and live reports straight from the scene. Then, stay informed with Fox 54 News at 9, featuring your Tennessee Valley certified most accurate weather impact team, tracking everything from tornado threats to traffic delays during severe weather. Fox 54 Sports Extra brings you more of what sports fans crave, with deeper insights, expert analysis, and all the action that matters most. On Fox 54 Plus, you'll also find Alabama politics, plus 24/7 weather radar and real-time forecasts to keep you ahead of the storm. Looking for a quick recap? Don't miss Fox 54 Week in Review, highlighting the biggest stories of the week. Jumpstart your morning with Morning Rush. Fast-paced news updates, featured with uplifting stories from across the globe. Get your entertainment fix with Getting Real, where we break down movie reviews, top 10 lists, and spotlight the newest film. Die Hard fan? Locked On Sports dives deep into the Crimson Tide, the Tigers, college rivalries, and pro action. True crime warrior style? Killer Cases brings you gripping real-life stories that stick with you. Hungry for more? Cooking with Style serves up mouth-watering recipes that are easy to make and impossible to resist. From movie previews before you head to the theater with Take a Look, to must-know headlines from across the region and around the world with In the News. Watch all of these shows on demand and also on the Fox 54 News app. Available on Android and iOS devices. Streaming 24/7.
Did you know that you can get weather impact updates 24/7 on Fox 54 Plus? Here's how. Go to Fox 54 Plus on your Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, or Samsung. Once you're on the main screen, push the down arrow and click on the Fox 54 Plus Weather Impact 24/7 block. Here, you'll find radar, current temperatures and conditions, traffic cams, forecasts, and more, all available on demand. Want to get back to the main channel? Just push the down arrow and click on the 24/7 stream button. It's your weather impact updates 24/7 on Fox 54 Plus. Start streaming today.
There's more to Fox 54 Plus with the Locked On Podcast Network. From the Tide to the Tigers, from college teams to pro, the Locked On Podcast Network gives you insights and analysis you just can't find anywhere else.
These kids, they want to play.
But I don't think so. I think it was Chad Baker-Mazara.
Locked On Sports, streaming every day of the week and right here on Fox 54 Plus.